Hey, welcome back. It's a cold night here in New York, the kind that makes you pull your coat a little tighter and walk a little faster. And it was on a night just like this, January 17th, 1950 to be exact, that 11 men pulled off what the press would call the crime of the century. They stole $2.7 million in cash, checks, and securities from the Brinks Armored Car Depot in Boston. That's over $33 million in today's money. It was a clean, quiet, almost surgical operation. The perfect crime. And I'm Abnul J. Farabi, and this is Underworld Kings, The Rise and Fall, a Light Knot Studios production. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the Great Brinks Heist, the $2.7 million master plan that unraveled. Now, as an engineer, I have a deep appreciation for a well-designed system. And the plan for the Brinks job was a masterpiece of criminal engineering. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment stick-up. This was a 2-year-long project. The mastermind, a career criminal named Tony Pino, spent months casing the Brinks offices on Prince Street in Boston's North End. He learned the schedules, the routines, the vulnerabilities. He even rented a space across the street to watch through binoculars. His crew, which eventually grew to 11, conducted rehearsals. They copied keys, they made floor plans, they knew where every guard would be and when. They even bought identical navy blue peacoats and chauffeurs' caps to look like a uniformed crew, and creepy Halloween-style rubber masks to conceal their faces. On the night of the heist, they moved in silence, using only hand signals. They tied up the 5 employees, looted the vault, and were gone in under 30 minutes. They left no fingerprints, no usable clues. It was, by all accounts, flawless. And for 6 years, it stayed that way. The FBI interviewed hundreds of suspects, followed thousands of leads, and came up with nothing. The Brinks gang, they just melted into the background. They watched the headlines, they listened to the radio, and they waited. The plan was to let the heat die down, to let the statute of limitations on robbery run out, and then to quietly start spending their shares. That was the system. That was the design. And for a long time, it worked perfectly. The money, a mountain of small, unmarked bills, was hidden away. The men kept their mouths shut. They had executed not just a robbery, but a perfect endgame of patience. Or so they thought. Because here's the thing about complex systems. Whether it's a piece of software or a criminal conspiracy, the weakest point is rarely the code or the plan itself. It's almost always the human element, the variables you can't fully control. The gang's first mistake was assuming that 11 people could share a secret of that magnitude forever. Greed, jealousy, and paranoia began to eat away at the edges of their pact. Some members felt they deserved a larger cut. Others started spending small amounts too soon, drawing suspicion. The money, which was supposed to be their freedom, became a prison of anxiety. They were waiting for the clock to run out, but the pressure of waiting was cracking them from the inside. And then, the unraveling began. It didn't come from a brilliant FBI detective finding a hidden clue. It came from within. One gang member, a man named Specs O'Keefe, felt he was being cheated. He'd been shot in an unrelated incident and needed money for medical care, and the gang's leaders were reluctant to give him more funds, fearing it would draw attention. O'Keefe grew angry, then volatile. He started making threats. And the gang's response? They decided to have him killed. That decision, to turn on one of their own, was the critical failure. When the hitmen they hired botched the job and only wounded O'Keefe, they created their own worst enemy. A wounded, betrayed, and furious man with nothing left to lose. Specs O'Keefe walked into the office of the Massachusetts State Police and started talking. And once he started, he didn't stop. He gave them everything. The names, the planning, the rehearsals, the hiding places. He provided the blueprint to the entire operation. Just days before the statute of limitations was set to expire, the arrests began. The perfect crime was solved not by a footprint or a fingerprint, but by a fundamental breakdown of trust. The very thing that held the system together became the point of catastrophic failure. I think about this a lot. Living in this city of ambition and hustle, we're often sold the myth of the perfect plan, the flawless execution. In startups, in engineering, we chase that elegance. But the Brinks heist reminds me that the most sophisticated designs are hostage to the human heart. These men planned for everything except their own nature. They accounted for locks and timers and guards, but they couldn't account for the slow, corrosive effects of greed and fear and betrayal. They built a vault to protect their money, but they had no container strong enough to hold their secret. In the end, 8 of the 11 gang members were convicted. Most of the money, nearly all of it, was never recovered. It's out there somewhere, maybe hidden in a wall, or at the bottom of a river, or slowly spent over a lifetime. The legacy of the Great Brinks Heist isn't the genius of the plan, though it was brilliant. It's the stark lesson that no plan survives contact with people, that the tightest-knit group can fray under the weight of a shared sin. They were kings of their underworld for 6 long years, architects of a legendary score, and their fall was built into the blueprint from the very beginning. Thank you for listening to this episode of Underworld Kings. If you found this story of meticulous plans and human flaws compelling, please share the show with a friend. It truly helps us grow. For more deep dives into history's most fascinating rises and falls, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. This is Ibnul J. Farabi, reminding you that every empire, every kingdom, every perfect plan has a crack. Until next time, this has been a production of Light Knot Studios. Visit us at https://www.lightknotstudios.com.